They fired him. But when he revealed his true identity, his old bosses were left completely shocked. The air in the Grand Omnicorp boardroom crackled with a tension that Valerie Sterling, in her pristine designer suit, mistook for the sweet hum of triumph. Her perfectly manicured hand, adorned with a diamond that caught the light of the opulent chandeliers, hovered over the crisp termination letter, a dismissive smirk playing on her lips. Across the polished mahogany table, hunched slightly as if to minimize his presence, sat Arthur, the elderly janitor. His worn, gray uniform seemed to absorb the extravagant glow of the room, making him appear even more insignificant in this temple of corporate power. Marcus Vane, the COO, leaned back in his plush leather chair, a detached amusement in his eyes, as if watching a particularly uninteresting play unfold before him. They had summoned Arthur here, ostensibly for a final review, a bureaucratic nicety. But both of them knew, with a certainty born of ruthless efficiency, that it was merely a formality. Arthur was an obsolete cog, a piece of ancient machinery in a company that prized only the new, the fast, the profitable. Today, he would be discarded. "Arthur," Valerie began, her voice a silken thread woven with condescension, a tone one might use for an especially dim-witted child. "We appreciate your years of service. Truly. But as Omnicorp moves forward, optimizing for efficiency and innovation, some difficult decisions must be made. Your particular skill set, while charmingly traditional, no longer aligns with our strategic objectives." She paused, allowing her words to hang in the air, weighted with implied inadequacy, a subtle poison designed to sink into the old man's spirit. Marcus chuckled softly, a sound that grated on the hushed silence of the vast room, a sound of shared superiority. Arthur, his gaze steady, almost imperceptible beneath bushy gray brows that seemed to carry the weight of forgotten memories, offered a small, knowing smile. It was a smile that Valerie, in her myopic vision, interpreted as senile confusion, perhaps even a hint of simple-minded resignation. How utterly blind they were! How magnificently, tragically, unaware! The old man, whom they had deemed a relic, an expendable burden, a mere janitor to be swept aside with the dust and detritus of their ambitious ascent, was in fact the architect of the very empire they now so arrogantly mismanaged. He had built this, brick by digital brick, vision by audacious vision, from nothing more than a spark of an idea and a relentless belief in human potential. And now, they were dismissing him, the founder, in a humiliating charade of corporate streamlining. A profound sadness settled over him, not for himself, but for the desecration of his life's work. "Strategic objectives, Ms. Sterling?" Arthur's voice, usually a gentle murmur, now held an uncharacteristic resonance, a subtle undercurrent of steel that went entirely unnoticed by his tormentors, lost in their own self-importance. His gaze flickered towards the imposing corporate logo emblazoned on the far wall, a symbol he had designed with such hope and foresight, now a hollow emblem. "And what, pray tell, are those objectives, truly? Profit margins above all else? Discarding loyalty and human dignity for the sake of a quarterly report? Is that the legacy Omnicorp now seeks to build?" Valerie laughed outright, a sharp, unfeeling sound that echoed off the polished surfaces. "Arthur, really? You're hardly in a position to lecture us on corporate strategy. You're a janitor. An elderly one, at that. We're offering you a severance package, far more generous than your contributions warrant, frankly. Consider it a benevolent gesture from Omnicorp. A final act of charity. Sign here, and we can conclude this unfortunate necessity." She pushed the letter across the table with a flick of her wrist, a pristine Mont Blanc pen resting atop it like a loaded gun, ready to seal his fate. Marcus, sensing the old man's unexpected defiance, a flicker of something beyond meekness, chimed in, his voice laced with an almost imperceptible hint of a threat, a veiled warning to not make things difficult. "Look, Arthur, it's not personal. It's just business. You've had a good run. Time to retire. Enjoy your golden years, eh?" Perhaps a quiet cottage somewhere, far from the demands of the modern world. Arthur did not reach for the pen. His hands, though gnarled with age, remained still, resting lightly on the table. Instead, he slowly, deliberately, pushed the letter back towards Valerie. His eyes, usually clouded with the feigned weariness of age, now gleamed with an astonishing clarity, a depth of intelligence that seemed to pierce through their carefully constructed facades of power and indifference. The subtle shift in his demeanor sent a flicker of unease through Valerie, a momentary crack in her impregnable self-assurance, though she quickly dismissed it as an old man's stubbornness, a final, pathetic grasp at dignity. "Unfortunate necessity, indeed," Arthur murmured, his voice now lower, yet imbued with an undeniable authority that made Valerie unconsciously stiffen, a primal instinct of unease she couldn't quite place. "But not for me, Miss Sterling, or for Mr. Vane. For Omnicorp. For the legacy I spent my life building." He leaned forward, his gaze sweeping over the opulent room, lingering on the company logo, a symbol that had once represented innovation, integrity, and a pioneering spirit. "The game, as you so aptly put it, is over. And it is not I who will be leaving this company today." Valerie's smirk faltered, replaced by a nascent frown. Marcus's detached amusement vanished, replaced by a nascent flicker of confusion, then alarm. Who was this old man, and what was he implying? The air in the room seemed to grow heavy, charged with an unspoken truth, a powerful current of revelation waiting to break. Arthur straightened up, no longer a hunched figure, but a man radiating a quiet power, a formidable presence that had been carefully hidden. "You see," he continued, his voice gaining strength, echoing through the stunned silence, resonating with a force that seemed to shake the very foundations of the room, "you have just fired not just a janitor, but the very soul of Omnicorp. You have fired Orion Thorne." The name, Orion Thorne, hung in the air, a bell tolling the end of an era, and the beginning of their reckoning. Valerie and Marcus stared, their faces draining of color, their carefully constructed world beginning to shatter around them, like glass dropped from a great height. The shock was immediate, visceral, and utterly complete. The man they had so callously dismissed, the man they had mocked and humiliated, the man whose very existence they had casually ignored, was the very titan they had believed long dead, or at least, permanently retired into obscurity, a forgotten legend. The irony was a bitter, burning taste in their mouths, a taste of a fate they had unwittingly sealed for themselves. The realization hit them with the force of a physical blow, leaving them breathless, stripped of their composure. Orion Thorne, at 55, had once been a man whose genius had reshaped the digital landscape. He was the reclusive visionary behind Omnicorp, a multi-billion-dollar tech empire that had once been synonymous with innovation, ethical practices, and a pioneering spirit that genuinely valued its employees. His mind, always years ahead of its time, had conceived of technologies that seemed like science fiction, then brought them into reality, always with a guiding principle: technology should serve humanity, not dominate it. From humble beginnings, a tiny garage office filled with late-night coding sessions and instant coffee, he had built Omnicorp not just as a business, but as a testament to what technology could achieve when wielded with integrity and a deep understanding of human connection. He believed in fostering creativity, nurturing talent from within, and ensuring that every employee, from the newest intern to the most seasoned executive, felt like a vital part of a grand, shared endeavor. His personal touch, his quiet benevolence, his open-door policy, had defined the company culture for decades, making Omnicorp a beacon in a rapidly industrializing tech world. He remembered the vibrant energy that used to pulse through these very halls, the laughter, the passionate debates, the shared meals in the cafeteria. It had been more than a company, it had been a family. However, as the empire grew, so did the distance between Orion and its daily operations. He had always been a man of vision, a futurist, not a micromanager. He believed in empowering others. He had entrusted the reins to those he believed shared his principles, individuals he had personally groomed, like Valerie Sterling. Years ago, he had stepped down from the public eye, feigning a gradual retreat into semi-retirement due to health concerns, a carefully crafted illusion designed to allow him to observe the company's trajectory from a detached vantage point. He wanted to see if the seeds he had sown would truly blossom into a sustainable, ethical entity, or if the relentless tide of corporate greed would inevitably wash them away. A part of him hoped for the former, desperately. Another, more cynical part, feared the latter. What he observed, however, filled him with a growing sense of disillusionment and bitter disappointment. From his secluded estate, a sanctuary of peace and quiet reflection, he meticulously monitored market reports, internal memos leaked by sympathetic contacts, and even employee forums under various pseudonyms. He witnessed a slow, insidious erosion of Omnicorp's founding principles, like acid eating away at solid rock. Valerie Sterling, his hand-picked successor for CEO, once an ambitious but seemingly principled protégé, had transformed, hardened by the relentless pursuit of power. The pursuit of profit had become an obsession, quarterly earnings reports her Bible, her sole guiding star. She had brought in Marcus Vane as COO, a man whose pragmatism bordered on callousness, whose solutions were always the most financially expedient, regardless of human cost. Together, they formed an unholy alliance, dedicated to maximizing shareholder value at any cost, a scorched-earth policy for profit. Orion saw the humane policies he had implemented, policies designed to support families, foster work-life balance, and ensure employee well-being, systematically dismantled. The generous benefits packages dwindled, replaced by bare minimums that barely met legal requirements. The celebrated on-site childcare facility, a beacon of support for working parents and a testament to his belief in work-life integration, was repurposed into a sterile, client innovation hub, a cold, unwelcoming space. Loyalty, once a cornerstone of Omnicorp, became a liability, as long-term employees, those with higher salaries and more comprehensive benefits, were subtly, then overtly, targeted for efficiency overhauls. The vibrant, collaborative atmosphere he had cultivated was replaced by a cutthroat, competitive environment where fear of redundancy loomed large over every cubicle, every meeting. He saw the light drain from the eyes of the dedicated workforce, replaced by a quiet desperation. The final straw came with a series of aggressive layoffs, justified by market recalibrations and streamlining operations. Orion knew these were euphemisms for cold, calculated cost-cutting, executed with a shocking lack of empathy. He saw the faces of employees he had known for decades, dedicated individuals who had poured their lives into Omnicorp, discarded like worn-out machinery. He watched, heartbroken, as his company, his legacy, transformed into a soulless, profit-driven machine, devoid of the very spirit he had instilled. He felt a profound sense of failure, not for his business acumen, but for his misplaced trust. He realized then that observing from afar was no longer enough. The reports, the memos, the whispered complaints, they were insufficient. He needed to be inside, to truly feel the pulse of the company, to witness firsthand the extent of the rot that had set in. He needed to test the very foundations he had laid. Was there any hope left? Was there any spark of the original Omnicorp spirit remaining, or had it been extinguished entirely by the relentless pursuit of wealth? This was not just a business venture, it was a deeply personal quest, a desperate attempt to reclaim a part of himself that had been invested in this dream. He needed to understand if the company he built was still worthy of existing, or if it had become a monster he needed to reclaim, or perhaps, even dismantle entirely. Thus, the audacious plan was conceived. Orion Thorne, the billionaire tech titan, would publicly fake his own death, a meticulous, elaborate charade involving a staged yacht accident and carefully planted evidence that left no trace of his survival. The world mourned the reclusive genius, headlines screamed about the sudden, tragic end of a titan, and Omnicorp stock dipped momentarily before soaring again under Valerie's aggressive, unburdened leadership. Once deceased, Orion meticulously crafted a new identity, Arthur, an unassuming, elderly janitor. He altered his appearance subtly, grayer hair, more lines etched into his face, a slight stoop in his posture that convincingly added years, and a wardrobe of well-worn, humble clothes that blended into the background. He practiced his new persona, perfecting the quiet humility, the gentle deference, the subtle signs of age and benign forgetfulness. He even researched local community centers and retirement homes, establishing a believable, mundane backstory for Arthur, ensuring no one would ever suspect the true identity of the old man pushing a cleaning cart, whistling a tuneless, off-key melody. His goal was simple, yet profound: to re-enter Omnicorp at its lowest rung, to become invisible, to observe without bias. He would witness the company's true values, or lack thereof, through the eyes of its most overlooked employees. He would assess the new leadership, Valerie and Marcus, not from board reports or carefully curated presentations, but from their unguarded interactions with those they considered beneath them, those they believed didn't matter. He would seek out any remaining pockets of the true Omnicorp spirit, any individuals who still embodied the kindness, the integrity, the genuine passion for innovation he had once championed. This was his ultimate test, a final, desperate attempt to understand if the soul of Omnicorp was salvageable, or if it was lost forever. His decision about its future, whether to reclaim it, overhaul it, or let it crumble, would depend entirely on what he discovered as Arthur. The stage was set for a confrontation that only he knew was coming. Arthur's first day as a janitor at Omnicorp was a stark awakening, even for a man who had meticulously prepared for this role. The sprawling, gleaming edifice that had once been his personal vision now felt like an alien landscape, cold and unfamiliar. He, the man who had commanded armies of engineers and driven multi-million-dollar deals, now pushed a heavy cleaning cart, his back aching with an unfamiliar soreness by the end of each shift. The physical labor was a minor discomfort compared to the existential ache. The silence with which he was greeted, or rather, not greeted, was deafening. Most employees walked past him as if he were part of the furniture, an invisible fixture in the vast machinery of the corporation. This suited him perfectly. Invisibility was his greatest asset, the perfect cloak for his true purpose. His observations began immediately, a relentless, often painful, stream of revelations. Valerie Sterling, ever the public face, glided through the hallways with an air of untouchable superiority, her laugh sharp and unfeeling. Arthur would often see her, surrounded by a phalanx of junior executives, their faces mirroring her own detached ambition, their expressions carefully neutral. One morning, as he polished the glass walls of a conference room, he overheard her discussing a new, productivity metric, that would effectively force employees to work longer hours for the same pay, cynically disguised as an opportunity for growth, or a pathway to enhanced personal efficiency. Her voice, sharp and unsympathetic, spoke of human beings as mere cogs, easily replaceable, their well-being a footnote in the grand ledger of corporate efficiency. Marcus Vane, equally cold and calculating, would often be by her side, nodding in agreement, offering pragmatic suggestions on how to implement such dehumanizing measures with minimal legal fallout or employee unrest. His mind recalled a time when Marcus had been a promising, eager young manager, full of ideas and a genuine enthusiasm for the company's mission. Now, he was a caricature of corporate greed. Arthur witnessed the systematic dismantling of the humane policies he had painstakingly put in place. The generous parental leave, once a point of pride and a magnet for top talent, was slashed to the legal minimum. The on-site childcare facility, a vibrant, noisy space filled with the laughter of children, a beacon of support for working parents, was repurposed into a sterile, client innovation hub, its brightly colored walls painted over in muted, corporate tones. The employee lounge, once a vibrant space for collaboration and relaxation, where ideas often sparked over shared coffee, became a sparsely furnished area with vending machines, designed for quick, impersonal breaks, discouraging any genuine human interaction. He saw the tired faces of employees working late into the night, their eyes dulled by stress and overwork, their shoulders hunched under the invisible weight of fear, a stark contrast to the lively, passionate atmosphere he remembered. The vibrant energy had been replaced by a palpable sense of anxiety. One particularly poignant scene unfolded in the cafeteria. Arthur was discreetly cleaning tables, his ears attuned to the conversations around him, sifting through the mundane chatter for insights. He overheard a middle-aged woman, a long-term software engineer named Maria, tearfully discussing her impending layoff with a colleague. Maria had been with Omnicorp for 20 years, her loyalty unwavering, her contribution significant, her code embedded deeply into the company's foundational systems. Yet, her experience, her higher salary, her accumulated benefits, had made her a target. Valerie and Marcus had implemented a phased restructuring that prioritized younger, cheaper talent, regardless of their lack of institutional knowledge or proven dedication. Maria's colleague spoke of the company's new motto, unofficially whispered among the staff, "Adapt or be eliminated." Arthur's heart, though concealed beneath the stoic facade of Arthur, ached with a profound sense of betrayal. This was not his Omnicorp. This was a hollow shell, stripped of its soul. The antagonist's cruelty was not always overt, not always a shout or a direct insult, but often manifested in their dismissive indifference, a casual, almost unconscious dehumanization. Arthur, as the janitor, was the silent recipient of many such casual slights. Valerie would often leave stacks of important documents on the floor beside her waste bin, expecting him to pick them up, never acknowledging his presence with a glance or a word. Marcus once barked at him for accidentally leaving a cleaning bucket too close to his office door, treating him not as a human being but as an impediment, an annoyance, a piece of inanimate scenery. They would discuss sensitive company matters within his earshot, confident that an old janitor was deaf and intellectually incapable of understanding, let alone caring, about their machinations. This deliberate dehumanization, the casual contempt for those they deemed beneath them, solidified Orion's conviction about their character. They saw only titles and pay grades, not people. Amidst this landscape of corporate callousness, a solitary flicker of light emerged in the form of Elara Vance. She was a junior developer, no older than 25, with bright, inquisitive eyes that still held a spark of idealism, a youthful optimism that refused to be extinguished. Elara often worked late, her desk piled high with code, her brow furrowed in concentration. Her own struggles were evident. Arthur often saw her eating a modest sandwich for lunch, or nursing a lukewarm cup of instant coffee, clearly trying to stretch every dollar in her meager salary. She rarely left the office before 8 p.m., a testament to the demanding workload placed upon junior staff, yet he never heard her complain. Despite her own pressures, her spirit remained untainted, her kindness intact. Arthur first encountered Elara in the deserted server room late one evening. He was performing his routine cleaning, the hum of the servers a constant drone, and she was troubleshooting a complex bug, her frustration mounting with each failed attempt. Her computer screen glowed, illuminating the faint lines of exhaustion under her eyes. He had offered her a quiet, understanding nod as he swept, a simple gesture of shared humanity, and she had returned it with a genuine, weary smile. It was a small exchange, but for Arthur, it was a balm, a sign that not all was lost. On another occasion, during a particularly grueling week of efficiency audits that had everyone on edge, Arthur was taking a rare break in a quiet corner of the cafeteria. He had forgotten his packed lunch that day, a deliberate oversight on his part to see how he might be treated by others, to truly test the company's human core. Elara, noticing his empty hands and his quiet contemplation, approached his table, her eyes filled with concern. "Arthur, are you all right?" she asked, her voice soft with genuine concern, a rare commodity in these halls. "You look a bit lost. Did you forget your lunch today?" Arthur, feigning a slight embarrassment, nodded. "Ah, yes, my memory isn't what it used to be. Left it at home this morning." Without hesitation, Elara unzipped her modest lunch bag. "Oh, no worries at all. I always pack extra today. My mom always tells me to bring more than I need, just in case, you know. She says you never know who might need a little something." She pulled out a neatly wrapped half-sandwich, simple but wholesome, and a small, ripe apple. Here, please. You must be hungry. It's a tough day for everyone, and you work so hard. Arthur was genuinely touched. He saw the simplicity of her meal, yet she offered it with an open heart, without a hint of pity or expectation. He accepted it with a grateful nod, observing her closely. She didn't see an old janitor, she saw a fellow human being in need, someone worthy of a small act of kindness. As they ate in comfortable silence, Elara spoke of her passion for coding, her dreams of creating software that truly helped people, that solved real-world problems, echoing the very ideals that Orion had instilled in Omnicorp decades ago. She also quietly confided her anxieties about the recent layoffs, how they had created an atmosphere of fear, and how she sometimes felt the company was losing its way, focusing too much on numbers and not enough on the people who built its products or the people it was supposed to serve. It just feels different now, she mused, a hint of sadness in her voice. Sometimes I wonder if I'm in the right place, if I should stay, but then I think of what Omnicorp could be, and I keep hoping things will get better. I believe in what Omnicorp could still become. Her words resonated deeply with Arthur. She wasn't naive, she saw the flaws, felt the pressure, yet she clung to the hope of a better future, a future that mirrored Orion's original vision. Her quiet resilience, her unwavering empathy, and her belief in the true spirit of innovation and human connection were a stark contrast to the cold ambition that pervaded the executive suites. Elara, in her unassuming kindness, became a living testament to the values that Orion had once held dear. She was the flickering ember of hope that he had been searching for, the undeniable proof that the soul of Omnicorp was not entirely extinguished. The day he was fired, disguised as Arthur, was orchestrated by Valerie and Marcus as a public spectacle of their merciless efficiency drive. They gathered a small group of mid-level managers, ostensibly for a training session on difficult but necessary personnel decisions, a performance designed to instill fear and obedience. Arthur was brought in, his termination letter a prop in their display of corporate ruthlessness. Valerie, with a practiced coldness, delivered the news, citing his age and inefficiency, making an example of him, a deliberate message to anyone who might resist their new, leaner vision. Marcus added a cutting remark about clearing out the deadwood, his eyes sweeping the audience for reactions. As Arthur stood there, absorbing their disdain, observing the calculated cruelty, his eyes met Elara's across the room. She was one of the junior staff present, her face a mask of shock and dismay, a silent protest against the cruelty she was witnessing. She offered him a small, sympathetic nod, a gesture of solidarity that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of his inherent worth, even as others dismissed it. It was in that moment, seeing the stark contrast between their calculated cruelty and Elara's genuine compassion, that Orion's decision solidified. The time for observation was over. The time for reckoning had come. The company-wide Visionary Leadership Summit was in full swing. The vast auditorium buzzed with a manufactured excitement, a carefully curated atmosphere of corporate triumph. Valerie Sterling, radiant in a bespoke power suit that shimmered under the stage lights, commanded the stage, her voice amplified through the vast auditorium, filling every corner with her confident pronouncements. Marcus Vane stood proudly beside her, a picture of corporate efficiency, his hands clasped, a faint, self-satisfied smile playing on his lips. They were detailing their aggressive new strategic plan, a plan that promised unprecedented growth and profit, built, as Orion knew, on the discarded dreams and livelihoods of many. The air was thick with the scent of ambition, expensive perfume, and the hushed murmurs of employees, some genuinely excited by the promises of wealth, others simply resigned to their fate. This was their moment of triumph, their coronation as the new rulers of Omnicorp. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the rear of the auditorium. The heavy main doors, usually locked during presentations, swung inward with a decisive thud, drawing every eye in the room. A collective gasp, like a single breath inhaled by hundreds, rippled through the audience. In the doorway stood a figure, not just one, but a small, formidable entourage. Leading them was a man of imposing stature, his silver hair impeccably styled, gleaming under the harsh lights. His custom-tailored suit, in a deep charcoal, exuded an aura of understated power and immense wealth that dwarfed Valerie's flashy attire. His face, though older, marked by wisdom and quiet suffering, was undeniably familiar to many of the long-serving employees and certainly to Valerie and Marcus, whose eyes had widened in instant recognition. Beside him stood a stern-faced woman, clearly a high-profile attorney, her briefcase clutched firmly. She was flanked by two burly security personnel who moved with practiced efficiency, their gazes sweeping the room, assessing every threat, every exit. Valerie, mid-sentence in her triumphant speech, froze. Her carefully constructed facade cracked, shattering like fragile porcelain. Her jaw went slack. Marcus's confident posture sagged, his face slowly draining of color. The man who had just entered was supposed to be dead. Or, at the very least, permanently out of the picture, a forgotten ghost of Omnicorp's past. The man was Orion Thorne. He walked slowly, deliberately, down the central aisle, his every step resonating with an undeniable authority, a quiet force that commanded attention without a single word. The hushed whispers grew into a confused murmur, then faded into a stunned, breathless silence as he approached the stage. His eyes, keen and piercing, swept over the faces in the audience, taking in their shock, their fear, their dawning comprehension. His gaze lingered momentarily on Alara Vance, who sat pale with shock, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes wide with disbelief and a nascent flicker of wonder. Then, his gaze settled on Valerie and Marcus, a look of profound disappointment and cold, unwavering judgment etched upon his features. Valerie, finding her voice, though it trembled slightly, finally managed to articulate the single word that encapsulated her utter disbelief. Orion? What is the meaning of this? You're supposed to be, her words trailed off, lost in the overwhelming disbelief, the sudden, seismic shift in her reality. Orion reached the foot of the stage, his presence radiating a quiet power that dwarfed their own. He looked up at them, a ghost come to haunt their ill-gotten gains, a living embodiment of their betrayal. Supposed to be dead, Valerie? Is that what you were going to say? A convenient fiction, wasn't it? One that allowed you to systematically dismantle everything I built, everything Omnicorp once stood for. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the vast space without the need for a microphone, carrying the weight of years of observation, of profound betrayal. Marcus, regaining a sliver of his composure, fueled by adrenaline and a desperate need to maintain control, stepped forward, his face a mask of confusion and barely concealed panic. This is outrageous. An impersonator. Security. Remove this man immediately. But the two security personnel who had accompanied Orion merely shifted their weight, their eyes fixed on Valerie and Marcus, signaling their true allegiance. Their silent immobility was a powerful, chilling statement. The high-profile attorney stepped forward, holding aloft a thick stack of documents, bound neatly, impossibly official. Mr. Vane, Ms. Sterling, she announced, her voice crisp and authoritative, cutting through the stunned silence. I am Eleanor Vance, legal counsel for Mr. Orion Thorne. Mr. Thorne is very much alive, and has been observing Omnicorp's operations for the past 2 years under an assumed identity. As of this moment, Mr. Thorne is exercising his rights as the majority shareholder and founder to immediately dissolve the current board of directors and revoke all executive powers for Ms. Sterling and Mr. Vane, effective immediately. The words hung in the air, a death knell for their reign, a hammer blow to their carefully constructed empire. Valerie's jaw went slack, her eyes wide with dawning horror. Marcus's face turned ashen, his carefully cultivated mask of control crumbling entirely. The audience erupted in a cacophony of gasps, exclamations, and frantic whispers, a tidal wave of shock and exhilaration washing through the room. Orion stepped onto the stage, his movements fluid and powerful, no longer hampered by the feigned stoop of Arthur. He walked directly towards Valerie and Marcus, who instinctively recoiled, taking a step back as if confronted by a phantom. "Valerie," he began, his voice devoid of warmth, laced with the bitter taste of betrayal. "I appointed you with such hope. I believed in your vision, your potential. I saw a spark of the Omnicorp spirit in you. But you chose profit over people, ambition over integrity. You turned my company, a place built on innovation and human dignity, into a soulless machine, a mere profit engine." His gaze sharpened, piercing through her crumbling composure, seeing the avarice that had consumed her. "And you, Marcus, were a willing accomplice, blindly pursuing numbers while trampling on the very individuals who made those numbers possible, those who dedicated their lives to this company." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, allowing them to fully comprehend the depth of their transgression. "But perhaps the most egregious of your transgressions," he continued, his voice now laced with a bitter irony that was almost unbearable, "was your decision just days ago. You dismissed a loyal employee, a janitor named Arthur, citing his age and inefficiency. You mocked him, humiliated him, and made an example of him for your efficiency overhaul, a public display of your ruthless pragmatism." His eyes bored into theirs, twin lasers of judgment, the full, horrifying gravity of their mistake dawning on them. "Do you remember him, Valerie? Marcus? The old man you deemed expendable? The one whose very presence you found irritating, insignificant?" Their eyes widened in horror, a dawning realization twisting their features into grotesque masks of disbelief and terror. The janitor. Arthur. The man they had so contemptuously fired, treated like dirt beneath their polished shoes. The truth hit them like a physical blow, a sudden, blinding flash of understanding. The humiliation they had inflicted, the disdain they had shown, the casual cruelty, it had been directed at the very man who held their careers, their reputations, and their futures in his hands. The irony, a cruel, poetic justice, was almost too much to bear. Orion's voice boomed across the silent auditorium, cutting through the stunned air. "I am Arthur. And I am Orion Thorn." The declaration, simple yet profound, resonated through the hall, echoing the thunderous shock in the hearts of Valerie and Marcus. Their faces contorted in a horrifying mixture of disbelief, fear, and utter defeat. Their carefully constructed world, built on deceit and ruthless ambition, imploded around them in a single, devastating moment. The mask had truly fallen, not just for Orion, but for them as well, revealing their true, ugly selves to the entire company. The game, as Orion had declared, was indeed over. And they had lost everything, their carefully guarded secrets laid bare for all to see. The revelation of Orion Thorn's true identity sent shockwaves not just through the Omnicorp summit, but across the entire global tech industry. News channels immediately picked up the story, dissecting every detail of the reclusive billionaire's dramatic return from the dead, a modern corporate legend unfolding live. For Valerie Sterling and Marcus Vane, the fallout was swift, brutal, and absolute. Within minutes of Orion's declaration, Eleanor Vance, his formidable attorney, was already serving them with official legal documents. They were immediately escorted from the stage, not by their own security, but by Orion's formidable team, their presence a silent, undeniable statement of authority. Their executive badges, symbols of their power, were confiscated. Their access to Omnicorp systems was instantly revoked. The meticulously crafted careers they had built on the back of Orion's legacy, their years of relentless ambition, crumbled before their eyes, reduced to nothing. Valerie, initially defiant, fueled by a lifetime of never accepting defeat, quickly descended into a panicked frenzy. She railed against the injustice, threatening lawsuits, screaming accusations, but her words held no weight against the might of Orion Thorn and his unyielding legal counsel. She was stripped of her CEO title, her board seat, and her substantial stock options, which were, as per Omnicorp's original charter, reinstated by Orion with immediate effect, tied to ethical performance metrics. Her reputation, once gleaming with corporate success, was now in tatters, painted across every major news outlet as a ruthless fraudster who had betrayed her mentor, a cautionary tale of corporate avarice. The public backlash was immense, fueled by disgruntled former employees who now felt gloriously vindicated, their stories of mistreatment validated by the highest authority. Her personal wealth, largely tied to her corporate position and the fluctuating stock, evaporated almost overnight, leaving her with a fraction of what she had once commanded. The luxurious life she had grown accustomed to, the designer clothes, the exclusive parties, the penthouse apartment, all vanished, replaced by the stark reality of public disgrace and impending financial ruin. She had sacrificed her integrity for money, and now she had neither. Marcus Vane fared no better. His pragmatic detachment, once his greatest strength, turned into desperate pleas, then bitter recriminations, as he watched his world collapse. He, too, lost everything, his COO position, his substantial bonuses, his professional credibility, shattered beyond repair. Other corporations, once eager to poach talent from Omnicorp, now steered clear of him, fearing the taint of his association. He was branded a pariah, his name synonymous with the ruthless, unethical practices that Orion Thorn had so dramatically exposed. The comfort of his expensive home, the luxury cars, the opulent vacations, all became unsustainable burdens. He watched his assets dwindle, his future prospects evaporate, replaced by a terrifying void. Both Valerie and Marcus were left not just professionally ruined, but personally devastated, their hubris having led them directly to their downfall. They had believed themselves untouchable, above the very values they scorned, and now they paid the ultimate, crushing price. Meanwhile, in the audience, Elara Vance sat stunned, watching the dramatic unraveling of power, the fall of giants. She had recognized Arthur, of course, the kind old janitor who had shared her quiet lunches, whose tired eyes held a strange, comforting wisdom. But Orion Thorn? The legendary founder? The cognitive dissonance was immense, overwhelming, almost too much for her young mind to process. She felt a surge of emotions, shock, disbelief, and a profound sense of vindication for Arthur, for Maria, for all the employees who had suffered under the new regime, whose quiet struggles had finally been seen. As Valerie and Marcus were led away, their faces contorted in despair, Orion's gaze once again swept the audience. He spotted Elara, still rooted to her seat, her face pale but her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and understanding, a flicker of recognition passing between them. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched his lips, a ghost of the one Arthur had offered in the boardroom. The very next day, a sleek, private car, far grander than anything Elara had ever ridden in, arrived at her modest apartment building. She was summoned to a private meeting with Orion Thorn himself, not in the imposing boardroom, but in a quiet, sunlit corner office he had personally chosen, one with views of a small, verdant park. She walked in, her heart pounding, unsure what to expect, half convinced it was all a dream. Orion, no longer the hunched janitor but an imposing figure of quiet authority, his silver hair catching the sunlight, greeted her warmly. "Elara," he said, his voice gentle but firm, carrying the wisdom of years. "Thank you for coming. Please, sit." He gestured to a comfortable armchair opposite his own. He spoke, his voice measured, of his time as Arthur, of his observations, and of the profound disappointment he felt at what Omnicorp had become under the corrupt leadership. He recounted the struggles he had witnessed, the fear, the dismantling of his vision. Then, his eyes fixed on hers, shining with a rare intensity. "But amidst the disillusionment, Elara, amidst the darkness and the despair, there was you. Your kindness, your compassion, your unwavering belief in the true spirit of Omnicorp, even when it seemed lost. You showed me that the heart of this company still beats, however faintly. You were the light I was searching for." He then revealed his comprehensive plans for Omnicorp's future. He announced a complete overhaul, a return to its founding principles of innovation, ethical practices, and employee well-being. He spoke of reinvesting in people, of fostering a culture of genuine collaboration, of rebuilding trust from the ground up. And Alara, he concluded, a significant pause filling the air, building the suspense for her, I want you to be a part of this, to help me build the future Omnicorp deserves. Not just as a junior developer. I've seen your talent, your passion, and more importantly, your integrity. I am reinstating the Orion's Visionaries program, an initiative I started years ago to identify and mentor future leaders, those who embody the true spirit of innovation coupled with compassion. Alara listened, her mind reeling, struggling to keep pace with the incredible turn of events. She could barely breathe, her chest tight with a mixture of disbelief and surging hope. I am offering you, Orion continued, his gaze unwavering, reinforcing the gravity of his words, the position of head of the revived Ethical AI Development Department. It's a brand new department, one that will focus on building technology with a conscience, ensuring our innovations serve humanity, not just profit or data collection. It's a senior leadership role, one that comes with a significant salary increase, a substantial benefits package, and the opportunity to truly shape the future of Omnicorp, to put your ideals into practice. Alara's jaw dropped. She tried to speak, but no words came out, only a choked gasp. This was a dream, surely. A junior developer, barely out of university, catapulted into a leadership position? It was unheard of, unimaginable in the cutthroat corporate world she knew. Furthermore, Orion added, a subtle twinkle in his eye, a rare flash of his old playful spirit, as a token of my gratitude for your unwavering kindness to Arthur, and as a foundation for your future in this new role, I have taken the liberty of purchasing a property for you. A beautiful, modest house, fully paid for, close to the city, with a garden, much like the one you once told Arthur you dreamed of tending. It will be transferred into your name today, free and clear. Alara's eyes welled up, tears blurring her vision. A house. Her own house. She had always dreamed of it, a quiet place where she could grow her own vegetables, a sanctuary from the relentless urban grind, a place of peace. It was a detail she had mentioned to Arthur only once, casually, during one of their quiet lunchtime conversations, a passing wistful thought. He had remembered. He had truly seen her, truly heard her. She looked at Orion Thorn, the man who had been the humble janitor, and felt an overwhelming sense of awe and profound gratitude. Tears streamed down her face, tears of joy and disbelief. Mr. Thorn, she finally managed, her voice choked with emotion, I don't know what to say. This is beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Orion offered a gentle smile. You simply need to say yes, Alara. And continue to be the compassionate, principled individual you are. Omnicorp needs more people like you. The world needs more people like you. Alara nodded, tears still flowing freely, a silent, resounding yes. She had offered a simple act of kindness to an old man she believed was insignificant, and in return, her life had been transformed in ways she could never have conceived. It was a dizzying, overwhelming reward, a testament to the powerful, unforeseen ripple effect of genuine human decency. Months passed. Omnicorp, under the re-established leadership of Orion Thorn, underwent a profound transformation. The gleaming, soulless corporate machine began to rediscover its heart, piece by painful piece. Old, humane policies were not just reinstated but expanded, reimagined for the modern world. The stifling atmosphere shifted from one of fear and ruthless competition to one of collaboration, innovation, and genuine respect for every employee. Employee morale, once at an all-time low, soared, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose and appreciation. The market, initially wary of the dramatic leadership shift, soon recognized the long-term value in a company that prioritized long-term vision and ethical practices over short-term gains. Omnicorp's reputation, once tarnished by scandal, now shone brighter than ever, attracting top talent who sought more than just a paycheck, they sought meaning and integrity. Orion Thorn, no longer dead or disguised, was a hands-on leader once more, albeit with a renewed sense of purpose, tempered by his experiences as Arthur. He often walked the floors, speaking to employees at all levels, a quiet smile on his face, listening to their ideas, their concerns, their hopes. He found a profound peace in seeing the vibrant, creative energy return to the halls of Omnicorp, seeing his original vision come to life once more. He knew he had made the right decision, not just for the company, but for himself, for his own legacy. The test had been painful, revealing the depths of human greed and betrayal, but it had also affirmed his belief in the enduring power of kindness and integrity. He had purged the rot and now cultivated a garden where genuine human connection and true innovation could flourish. Ilara Vance, thriving in her new role as head of ethical AI development, was a shining testament to Orion's vision and trust. She brought her idealism and compassion to every project, ensuring that the technology developed served a greater good, always asking the crucial ethical questions. Her department became a beacon of responsible innovation, attracting brilliant minds who shared her values, eager to build a better future. She lived in her beautiful new house, tending her garden with joy, a constant, tangible reminder of the incredible chain of events sparked by a simple act of sharing a sandwich. She was no longer just a junior developer, she was a leader, an innovator, and a living symbol of what could be achieved when talent was recognized and kindness was rewarded, when genuine human decency found its rightful place. Her life, once a quiet struggle, was now filled with purpose and unexpected abundance, a testament to the unforeseen power of a single good deed. Valerie Sterling and Marcus Vane, stripped of their power and wealth, faced the harsh realities of their choices. They were pariahs in the business world, their names forever associated with deceit and corporate malfeasance. Their attempts to salvage their reputations were futile, met with scorn and outright rejection from every corner. They were forced to confront the emptiness of a life built solely on acquisition, devoid of genuine human connection or ethical principles. Their fall served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that true power lies not in position or wealth, but in integrity and respect for others. The story of Orion Thorn, the quiet Arthur, the ruthless Valerie, the calculating Marcus, and the compassionate Ilara became an enduring legend within Omnicorp and far beyond. It was a story whispered in meeting rooms and told in hushed tones in the cafeteria, a modern fable of redemption and reckoning. It served as a constant reminder that the true character of an individual is not revealed in the light of prosperity, but in the shadows of adversity. It is in the darkness, when masks are inadvertently shed, that one truly sees the heart of another. And it taught, unequivocally, that kindness, however small, however unnoticed, is never truly wasted. It is a seed, patiently waiting for the right moment to blossom into a reward far beyond what any material wealth could ever offer. For in the grand tapestry of life, every thread of compassion woven into the fabric will, in due time, find its way back to the weaver, often in ways more magnificent than could ever be imagined. If you were captivated by Orion Thorn's incredible journey and the shocking reveal that brought justice to Omnicorp, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss more powerful stories like this. What was the most shocking part of Arthur's true identity being revealed? Do you think Valerie and Marcus got what they deserved? And what do you believe is the most important lesson this story teaches us about kindness and corporate ethics? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you.